Hi chess friends, today we are going to witness how Praggnanandhaa outplays Magnus. Magnus plays with white, Praggnanandhaa is black. Magnus starts with d4, Praggnanandhaa plays knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3. This opening is called as Indian defense, queen pawns game. d5, knight c3, c5, e3, knight c6. Game transposed to c pawn takes d5 pawn out of the opening book. Bishop d3 is the book continuation. E pawn takes d5 pawn. Bishop b5 pins the knight to king. C pawn takes d4 pawn. E pawn takes d4 pawn. Bishop d6 clears way for castle. Both players castle. h3 not allowing bishop g4. h6 not allowing bishop g5. Rook e1 controlling the open e file. Bishop f5 controlling the b1 h7 diagonal. Knight e5. Magnus wants to win a pawn by knight takes knight, b pawn takes knight, bishop takes c pawn. It has an extra pawn. Back to the position. Praggnanandhaa avoids it by rook c8, bishop f4, rook e8, rook c1, queen b6. If Magnus tries to win the bishop by knight takes knight, b pawn takes knight, bishop takes bishop, c pawn takes bishop, material is e1. Back to the position. Bishop takes knight, b pawn takes bishop, knight a4 attacks the queen, queen a6 moves to safety, rook e3 preparing rook g3 to pin the g7 pawn to the king, and bishop can take the h6 pawn. Knight e4 not allowing rook g3. f3 attacks the knight, knight g5, rook e c3 doubling the rook on c file and attacks the c pawn, queen b7, bishop h2 releases white's knight at e5 from the pin, knight e6, knight takes c6 pawn. Magnus wins a pawn and threatens bishop at d6. Knight f4 blocks the bishop. Knight e5 blocks the knight's defender. Bishop takes knight. D pawn takes bishop. Knight is not protected, so knight moves to d3 square. If Magnus tries to win the bishop and knight for rook, let's check out what happens. Rook takes knight, rook takes rook, queen takes rook, bishop takes rook, black has rook for knight, black has the advantage. Back to the position. So Magnus played rook takes rook, rook takes rook, rook takes rook check, queen takes rook, bishop g3, d4. Praggnanandhaa pushes the passed pawn, b3, queen c6, queen d2, king h7, king h2. Both players avoiding any checks by moving their kings to safe location. Bishop g6, queen a5 attacks the a pawn, queen c1, queen takes a7 pawn and attacks the d pawn, queen e3 protects the d pawn. Knight c3 was played. Better is queen a5, knight c1, queen e1, knight e2, knight b2. Game is equal. Back to the position. After knight c3, knight f4, knight d1 attacks the queen, queen d2 threatens checkmate by Queen g2. Knight f2. Blocks the g2 pawn. Knight e2. h4 was played. Better is knight g4, h5, queen e7, d3, queen h4, pawn on d3 is strong. Black has the advantage. This continuation will take more time than h4 line for black to win. Back to the position. h4 is a blunder. Queen e1, queen d7. Pause the video and find the brilliant move played by Praggnanandhaa. Compliments on finding the move. The move is knight takes bishop. The knight cannot be taken by the king. If king takes knight, queen takes e pawn check. If f4, queen e3 check and knight is lost. Or if king h3, bishop f4 and the queen is lost. Back to the position. So Magnus played queen takes d4 pawn, knight f1 check, king h3, knight e3. Praggnanandhaa's plan is to take the knight by queen and then queen g2 checkmate. Queen b2 protects the knight. Pause the video and find the best move played by Praggnanandhaa. After this move, Magnus resigned. Compliments on finding the move. The move is bishop c2. Blocks the protector of knight. Now knight is also lost. Black has extra bishop and knight, which is winning for black. If king comes to protect the knight by king g3, knight f1 check, king h3, queen takes knight, threatens queen g3 checkmate. So Magnus resigned. Back to the position. Instead of bishop c2, queen g1 has a forced checkmate in 7 moves. Let's see the continuation. Knight e4, knight f1, king g4, queen h2, f4, bishop takes knight, queen f2, knight e3 check, queen takes knight, queen takes g2 pawn check, queen g3, bishop f3 check, king f5, queen c2 checkmate. If you like the video, share, subscribe and like. Thank you. Now it's puzzle time. Black to play and win. Post your solutions in the comment section.